According to legend, tea was discovered in 2737 BC by Chinese Emperor Shen Nung. Known as the Divine Healer, the story goes that he discovered the beverage when tea leaves accidentally blew into his pot of boiling water. Yes, on those times Chinese emperors boiled their own tea and water. And this is how tea history begins close to 5,000 years ago. In the year 350 AD, a Chinese dictionary cites tea for the first time as erya. In the year 400, the demand for medicinal tea rises in China. It's cultivated and processed. The year 479, Turkish traders begin to trade for tea from Mongols. 593, Japanese priests studying in China carry tea seeds and leaves back to Japan. It's rare and expensive, and it's consumed mostly by the high priests and the aristocrats. 725, the Chinese give tea its own character, cha. 780. The first book of tea, called Cheching, the Classics of Tea, is written. It discusses ancient tea cultivation and preparation techniques. We go into the new millennium, the year 1280. After the Mongols take over China, tea loses its aristocratic status in the courts and becomes more popular among the masses. From 1422 to 1500, Zen priest Murata Shuko creates the Japanese tea ceremony and calls it Chanuyu, hot water tea. It celebrates the mundane aspects of everyday life, tea becoming more than just an art form, close to a religion. 1597, tea appears for the first time in an English translation of Dutch explorer Van Hugo van Loxon's papers. He refers to tea as cha. 1610, the Dutch bring back green tea from Japan, though some scholars believed that it wasn't Japan, in fact, being China. The Dutch East India Company markets tea as a medicinal drink, though only the very rich can afford it. 1680, Chinese ambassadors present the Russian Tsar Alexis with chests of tea. He refuses it as being useless. He thought it was hay. 1657, the first tea is sold in London, England, at Garraway's Coffee House as a health beverage. 1662, England's King Charles II new bride, Catherine Braganza of Portugal, is an avid tea drinker and helps make tea more popular and accessible. 1773, in what is known as the Boston Tea Party, a group of Massachusetts colonists dumped several hundred chests of tea into the Boston harbor to protest high taxes on tea. 1876, Thomas Johnston Lipton opens his first store in Glasgow, Scotland. 1904, Englishman Richard Blighdon invents iced tea during a heatwave in the St. Louis World's Fair. 1908, New Yorker Thomas Sullivan invents tea bags when he sends tea to clients in small silk bags. The clients, never having tea, believe that they should consume it as is, in the small bags. From a few leaves that blew accidentally in Emperor Shan Nung's water, today we have 1,500 different tea types. Still, there are 6 basic categories: white, yellow, green, oolong, black, and post-fermented. The tea that is named after the Buddhist deity Guanyin, Iron Goddess of Mercy, is the oolong tea. In Iran and Afghanistan, tea is the national drink. Green tea is consumed as a thirst quencher, and black tea as a warming beverage. Both of them are prepared with lots of sugar. Though the Eastern world has been using tea for close to 5,000 years, it was introduced to the West only 400 years ago. In 1589, Europeans are exposed to tea for the first time when a Venetian author says that Asians live so long because they drink tea. Russians started drinking tea in the 17th century, but because it was so expensive, it didn't become popular until the 19th century. Britain is the second largest tea drinking nation in the world per capita. It's surpassed by Ireland. China is the largest producer of tea, and India is the second. It's estimated that 85% of all tea consumed in the US is iced tea. Over 520 million pounds of tea are imported into the United States every year. Around 1.5 million pounds of tea are consumed in the US every day. Based in Jebel Ali, Dubai, producing 5 billion tea bags a year, is the Lipton Tea Factory. The total value of the worldwide tea market is around $20 to $30 billion. The cinema industry is close to $40 billion as a comparison. After water, tea is the most consumed beverage in the world. Black tea undergoes the longest process of oxidation, white tea undergoes the shortest. While in older times it was customary to pour the milk first in the cup to protect the china, today tea connoisseurs say that that's not necessary anymore. You should pour the tea first and milk second, because it's easier to judge how much milk you should pour. In 2011, Americans consumed over 65 billion servings of tea, which is approximately 3 billion gallons. It's estimated that 85% of that tea was black, 14% green, and the rest, many of those 1,500 tea types. It takes around 12 years for a tea plant to produce seeds, and it takes around 3 years before a new plant is ready to be harvested. Tea plants need at least 50 inches of rain a year, and today the United Kingdom drinks about 165 million cups of tea a day, 62 billion a year. And although tea arrived in England in 1657, it did not immediately become popular. First sold in coffee houses, tea was heavily taxed, illegally smuggled, altered and fought over. It took many years for it to become a quintessential English drink. At one time in the 18th century, in Britain, tea was illegally smuggled, and importers would often mix tea, the most popular was green tea, with other types of additives or plants to increase their profits. They cut the tea. Unfortunately, these additives were sometimes poisonous. The British government intervened in 1785 and lowered taxes, which made tea more affordable and wiped out illegal smuggling activity. Most of the world's tea is grown in mountain areas, 3,000 to 7,000 feet above sea level, and between the Tropic of Cancer and Tropic of Capricorn. Tea-producing countries include Argentina, Tanzania, Sri Lanka, India, China, Australia, also Kenya and Malawi. Just the top 1 to 2 inches of the plant, when you have a mature plant or the flushes of the plant, are picked to make tea. A new flush grows within 7 to 15 days during growing season. And the tea tree, ungroomed, can grow as high as 52 feet. Still, cultivated plants are prone to waste level, to be easier harvested. Black tea is called red tea in China. Buddhist jewelers made a handcrafted diamond tea bag worth $1,500 to $250 as the most expensive tea bag in the world. It contains 280 diamonds, and it was used to raise money for a children's charity in Manchester, UK. The most expensive tea in the world is a Chinese tea called Tiegyan, which is around $1,500 a pound. Over 65% of all tea drank in the US was prepared with tea bags. Many tea lovers consider the tea bag as one of the worst inventions of the 20th century. Tea brewed with loose tea is generally considered to be richer than tea made from bags. It's also more economical to use tea leaves. Over 200 cups of tea can be brewed from 1 single pound of tea leaves. A cup of brewed tea usually contains less than half the caffeine of a cup of coffee. It's also really easy to decaffeinate loose tea leaves at home. You just have to rinse the leaves. In order to do that, begin brewing tea as usual, then remove the leaves after 20 seconds. Discard the brew and start again with fresh boiling water and the now decaffeinated tea leaves. Historically, tea has been viewed as a health drink. Recent studies, paid by the tea-producing companies, suggest that tea, especially green tea, helps reduce some forms of cancer, helps bad breath, reduces the risk of cardiovascular disease, reduces blood pressure, helps with weight control, kills bacteria and virus, helps with inflammation, and has a neuroprotective power. Most of these things can be achieved with regular water, according to the studies paid by the water bottling companies. Black tea represents around 75% of the world's tea consumption. It's the most common tea beverage not only in the US, but UK and Europe as well. The most popular tea in China and Japan is green tea, while oolong and white tea are the least popular in the world. White tea is the least processed one, and oolong is the most fussy to produce. And tea gets a bad rep. Still, white tea is made from the leaves of the Camellia sinensis plant, known commonly as the tea plant, and white tea is a true tea along with green tea, oolong tea, and black tea is the least processed of the true teas and is considered one of the most natural teas on the market. All tea is made from the leaf of the plant, Camellia sinensis. The specific types of tree are made by processing the tea leaves differently. In many parts of the world, tea is an important part of the day and an expression of hospitality. When tea is being poured in China, guests tap 2 or 3 fingers on the table 3 times to show gratitude to the server. When tea was initially sold in England in coffee houses, women weren't allowed there. Only men were allowed to enter coffee houses, which were full of smoke and noise. Finally, in 1717, the Twining family opened the Golden Lion, a tea shop that allowed women to come in. The tea shop is still open today. In 1884, the Heritage Bread Company turned one of their unused rooms in a tea room, the idea was extremely popular. Tea rooms gave women a proper place to gather outside the house without a male escort and keep their reputation intact. The term herbal tea means that the tea has been infused with herbs or fruit that was not part of the tea plant. Herbal tea includes rosehip and chamomile teas. Until the 19th century, in Siberia, blocks of frozen tea were used as money. While 1,120 liters of water go into production for a single liter of coffee, only 120 liters go into making the same amount of tea. In fact, to produce 1 liter of tea takes less water than producing wine, orange juice, beer, or apple juice. The tannic acid in black tea is said to help remove warts. Tea sets in the 18th century typically had numbered spoons to help the host remember which guest needed a refill, and the tannins found in green tea have been found to help stop bleeding by coagulating the blood. In Morocco, it's the man's job to pour the tea. He holds the long spotted pot high above the glass while pouring so that each glass of tea has a slightly frothy head to it. In movies or TV shows, an actor is supposed to drink whiskey. That's not really whiskey. They use tea on the sets. Tea was a major factor in establishing connections between the East and West. It's also a catalyst for developing new technology, such as faster transport ships. And in closing, the most expensive teapot in the world is a rare pair of melon teapots from 18th century China. They sold for over $2 million. They were owned by a Scottish collector who had them for over 50 years but did not realize their value. That's all for today. Hopefully you were drinking a cup, not a pot of tea. Tell me in the doobly-doo below what are your feelings around tea. Is it your favorite drink? Did you know that herbal tea isn't really tea but just tea is tea? I'm Alex, and until next time, don't forget to share, like, subscribe, repeat.